Hello everyone, welcome to this Basilosaurus taming guide. The oceans in Ark can be extremely intimidating to new players. They are full of incredible dangers, but amazing resources and artifacts as well. The Basilosaurus is my favorite ocean Ark tame. In this video, we're going to cover taming mechanics, the food you will need, and also a new taming mechanism that has come out since the release of Lost Island, which makes taming these so much easier. So the gear that I recommend you bring for taming a Basil is a scuba set, and I always bring a spare tank. The taming food for the Basilosaurus is the yellow kibble. This is the exceptional kibble. A very close second is using raw mutton. If you have it, you can use raw prime, but I highly recommend kibble or mutton for this tame. In order to tame a Basil, you do not necessarily need a water tame. But if you do want to bring one, I recommend a good water starter tame like a Baryonyx, a Megalodon, and even a Maywing. A Maywing doesn't have an oxygen stat, it's really fast in the water, and it's one of my new favorite underwater mounts. The Basilosaurus, or Basil for short, are located in the shallow waters of the ocean. Some of my favorite spots for taming these are Viking Bay on Ragnarok, Kessler Inlet on Lost Island, the shallow waters around the islands of the center. Essentially, you can find them on any map with water. There is also the X Variant, which is found on the Genesis 1 ocean biome. The taming mechanic for Basilosauruses is that they are a passive tame, which sounds easy, but they are constantly guarded by a swarm of mantas. Once you feed the Basil, it releases like a pheromone, and that will cause the mantas to attack you and just shred your scuba gear. You'll often die very quickly. With the release of the Lost Island map, we now have the Sinomacrops. The Sinomacrops is an amazing little creature that can actually come in really handy when you want to tame a Basilosaurus. There are two steps to taming a Basilosaurus. The first step is getting rid of all the mantas that surround the Basils. The second step is getting the feeds in. So there are three ways in which you can deal with the mantas that surround the Basilosauruses. The first way I'm going to show you is a new mechanic thanks to the new creature, the Sinomacrops. The second way is to attack all of the mantas. And the third way is to pin the mantas on a different Basil. I'm going to demonstrate each of these methods now so that you can pick which one works best for you. So what I'm going to do is to enable the auto scream on the Sinomacrops. You hold down the radio menu. So I'm going to put it on aggressive, and I am going to enable the auto scream. You can also do this using a manual scream, and I'll show that to you in a few minutes. After you've done this, pick up your Sinomacrops and head into the water. With the auto scream, you do have to be careful because it will scream on fish, and therefore you will lose your cooldown timer. With this method, you don't need a Maywing or water tame. You can actually just swim in offshore to find the Basils. Got our taming food in the hotbar. So the Sinomacrops just screamed on a fish, so now we have to wait for the scream cooldown to enable. You will see on the Sinomacrops HUD that the scream is now enabled. So we're gonna head up. It screamed on them. We're getting the E prompt to feed. Now what you want to do here is enable your taming tracker. So using this method, what you will need to do is have your Sino scream enabled every time you approach the Basilosaurus for a feed. You just continue scaring and feeding until the Basilosaurus is tamed. So you can see that that is a really simple and effective way of taming a Basilosaurus. Now if you like, you don't have to use the auto scream. You can do the manual scream. This requires a little bit more finesse as you need to time it, but it stops the auto scream on fish, which can interrupt your taming sometimes. In order to do the manual scream, you'll need to hold down R on the keyboard or X on a controller to bring up the radio menu. You then select scream and the mantles will get scared, flee. You can approach the Basil and feed with the kibble. Just a quick note to say that if this is new information for you, if you didn't know you could use a Sino to tame a Basilosaurus, please consider giving the video a like or subscribing to the channel. That helps more people find out about this. So the next method for dealing with all of the mantas is to fight them. Some of the best starter underwater tames in this game are the Baryonyx, the Sarco, and the Megalodon. You could use either one of these to take on the mantas. You need to be careful not to get pinned. Here I'm using the Baryonyx to aggro the mantas and then take them on. I like to spin and chomp. You can also use the spin attack to stun the mantas as well. This is the second best option if you do not have a Sinomacrops. So keep attacking until you've finished off all of the mantas. I would recommend attacking and killing all of the mantas in the area around the Basilosaurus. With this technique, you'll need to be mindful of mantas that come in during the feeding. You'll need to keep them at bay with your Tame so that they don't repin on the Basil. So the final method to deal with the mantas is kinda out there and crazy, but you can actually lead the mantas away and pin them on a different Basilosaurus that is in the area. You need to be really careful and skillful when doing this. So swim up to the Basil that you want to remove the mantas from, get their aggro, and swim away. Okay. If I look at my K-cam, yeah, look at me! Got a bunch of friends. And where was that level 25? Here it was. What we want to do, try and get these mantas to find a new mum. But what we might do is leave the area and hopefully they will stay. As you can see, the mantas are already getting themselves attracted to that Basilosaurus. So there we have the level 85. It has no mantas around it, which is great. A couple of dolphins. We can approach it, keep an eye in the area, put a feed in, and that starts the taming process. It is a little riskier because over time mantas will re-attract onto the Basil and you have to consistently lead them away. So it's not always the best solution. I want to add a quick note about taming the X Variant Basil on Genesis 1. Typically these are not surrounded by the packs of mantas that you see on other maps, which means that occasionally taming these can be an absolute breeze. On the other hand, there is so many eels on this map that as soon as you feed the Basil, they'll often aggro on you. This results in you being stun locked pretty much instantly and dying right away. So the second part of the taming process is continuing the feeds on the Basilosaurus. Once you have given the Basil the first feed, now comes the waiting game. There is an exceptionally long time between the first and the second feed when taming. For a max level on official settings, it is approximately 23 minutes between the first and the second feed. On official small tribes PvP, which is 3 times taming, you're looking at about 11 minutes between the first and the second feeding. If you are taming lower level Basils, there will be shorter times between those feeds. Every time you feed the Basilosaurus, it releases a kind of pheromone that encourages all of the creatures in the area, particular mantas and for some reason dolphins, to attack you. I highly recommend turning on your taming tracker and monitoring the Basilosaurus. Over time, mantas will re-attract themselves to the Basil that you are trying to tame. So you need to monitor this. You can either let them come back and then scare them again with the Sino when it's time to tame them. If you're using a Tame, you may want to fight them off and kill them before they reattach themselves to the Basil. After the second feed, the feeding intervals become much closer together, so just continue to pursue the Basil and feed it as required, until you have been able to complete your Tame. So I'm going to cover its abilities to demonstrate to you why I think it's the best underwater mount. Now the first ability it has is to passively make oil. While your Basil's sitting in your base, or even while you're riding it, it will make a slick kind of oil. It can't stack with the regular oil you get from rocks, but you can use it in the exact same way. The number one reason why I love Basilosauruses so much is that they are immune to the shocking effects of eels, and they are immune to the jellyfish stun. Now you can go out and get the king of the ocean, the Mosa, but if you hit jellyfish, that thing is gone and you are dead. Basils do not take any damage from jellyfish, so they are the best creature you can have for farming biotoxin. Here is another amazing thing about the Basil. It cannot be grabbed by squids. Squids can grab mosas, they can grab all sorts of other aquatic creatures, but they cannot grab Basils. Again, they are immune. This actually makes them perfect to bring along to tame a squid, because the squid won't grab you on your Basil, it will grab the creature that you throw out in order to passively tame it. Basils are amazing tanks. They have really high HP. If you have tamed a high level one and put loads of levels into it, you can even take down very high level squids and mosas as well. If you have a bred Basil with good stats, you can also take down alpha mosas. Again, caveat that it has to be a well-bred and imprinted Basil. Basils can be a little slow, but if you have a bred and imprinted one, speed is not an issue. When you take them into the deep ocean, they will take a very small amount of damage in deep water. As you can see here with my health bar, the damage is quite minimal, but they do take a small amount of damage over time. However, there is a flip side to this. When your basil is in shallow water and it's injured, it has a rapid healing regeneration. So you'll see that the food bar is flashing. The basil's health will go up very quickly and it will recover from injury in shallow water. And now, the second best thing about a Basilosaurus is its secondary attack. You've seen the primary attack in action, but the secondary attack, it's a rainbow. You can't get better than that. You can make beautiful rainbows in Ark. So that is it. Everything that you could ever want to know about taming a Basilosaurus. If you have appreciated this video, please consider giving a subscription to the channel, as it helps my channel grow and get the information out to other players. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.